Recently, a leading authority in the area of sales training said, only 10% of companies will measure the impact of their investment in sales performance programs, including skills training. That means that 90% of companies have no idea what's working or not working. Is there really any excuse for not knowing the business impact of your sales performance investments? I mean, how would you feel if other professionals didn't want to be bothered with testing and analyzing results after receiving their training? Would you feel comfortable if they didn't care enough to determine if the training was right or had the desired impact? Now, should you consider it malpractice if your company doesn't measure your sales training initiatives or sales performance investments? In his expert opinion, Dave Stein of ES Research, a leading sales training analyst, says, if you want to be considered among the elite companies, then you need to have an integrated, diligent, and auditable process to measure the results of your investment. In 1450, some smart guy created this device called an anemometer for measuring the wind. Hey, if they can figure out how to measure something as intangible as the wind 550 years ago, you should be able to measure your training results today. Too many companies are satisfied with having a gut instinct, a good feel, or a subjective sense of the benefit of their investments in sales performance training. A recent book called Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game, was just turned into a movie starring Brad Pitt. Moneyball tells the story of how one team, the Oakland Athletics, and its general manager, Billy Beane, took a much more analytical approach to assembling a competitive baseball team, despite Oakland's disadvantaged revenue situation. It challenged 100 years of collective wisdom among traditional baseball insiders, including players, managers, coaches, scouts, and even the front office. Moneyball said that their approach to evaluating talent was too subjective and, as a result, often flawed. Not unlike the subjective approach often used to evaluate sales training processes. Using this new, more analytical approach, the Oakland A's started competing effectively with teams that had payrolls 3 to 4 times their size. This transition from gut instincts and subjective player assessments to using more analytical, empirical measurements transformed the game of baseball, and the Moneyball approach is now being used by many other teams. Now it's time for sales training to undergo a similar sort of transformation. It's time, finally, to nail this jello to the wall. In the sales training industry, everyone talks about the ROI of training, but when push comes to shove, most companies are not willing to make the extra effort to measure it. And most sales skills training vendors have been all too happy to keep it that way because they're not confident themselves in their own outcomes. But here's a warning worth heeding. ROI isn't going to be a nice to have, it's going to be a must have. Companies who continue to avoid measuring ROI will do so at their own risk. Corporate Visions is going to take the guesswork out of sales training impact and stop the hemming and hawing over ROI. We are taking an unprecedented step of building a 90-day post-training ROI assessment right into our popular Power Messaging Sales Conversation Skills Training solution. It's called PowerView, and it's a proven third-party ROI approach from a company called Beyond ROI, and it tracks adoption, behavior changes, and business impact. Scott Watson, the founder of Beyond ROI and the creator of the PowerView survey for Corporate Visions, has designed and delivered more than 600 training assessments and measurement projects. In creating the Corporate Visions Power Messaging ROI survey, he said the key is linking actions to outcomes. Here are the 3 areas that you can, you must, and you will measure when you work with Corporate Visions. The first is accountability for adoption. You need to create accountability for the actual use of the new skills after program implementation. Behavior interviews will tell you how your salespeople are using the skills in real life. This creates visibility. Visibility drives accountability and stickiness. Second, application for results. You must track real-life application of the skills and the corresponding results in order to create concrete evidence of business impact. Identifying success stories provides a reality check of the specific examples where these new skills are contributing to closed business with customers. And third, insight for coaching. You need to identify and provide detailed feedback that your frontline managers will need for coaching purposes after the training event. including the specific areas where additional support and reinforcement are needed. Mastery of the skills and principles will improve over time, especially when you apply them regularly with a helpful coach. Let's take a closer look at what you'll learn from the PowerView assessment for Corporate Vision's Power Messaging. One of the most impressive ROI measures inside of PowerView is called the reality check. It asks participants to describe a specific time when they used the power messaging approach in an actual selling situation. Participants provide a detailed analysis of the deal and then rate whether power messaging made all, significant, some, little, or no difference in winning the deal. In this actual example right here, power messaging made all the difference or a significant difference in 70% of the deals reported, and this accounted for tens of millions of dollars in incremental revenue. Each deal is then broken down in detail to show you specifically how and exactly where power messaging helped. Another measurement inside PowerView is called the definite difference. It compares power messaging usage levels among your salespeople to key sales performance outcomes and then quantifies the impact. In this actual client example, it shows how salespeople who reported using power messaging the most often were closing 3 times more business on average when compared to those salespeople who were not using power messaging as much. This provides a great ROI analysis, and it also gives you evidence and support for coaching your reps and encouraging them to use the messaging and skills more often. That's why they call it beyond ROI. PowerView will also help you determine adoption and behavior changes by documenting how salespeople are applying specific power messaging skills in their real-world scenarios. You'll know what specific parts of the power messaging approach they use the most, how often they are using them, and where they use them. In addition to measuring adoption, this becomes a great feedback tool for coaching. Your managers will know which principles to reinforce and support in the field and which ones they might need to revisit. Here's what one power messaging client, Philips, had to say about the ability to get ROI information as part of their sales transformation project. The Beyond ROI survey is an invaluable tool that shows us how power messaging is truly helping our sales reps create and deliver messages that differentiate us from the competition and create value in the eyes of the customer. Susan McGinnis, Senior Sales Trainer, Philips Respironics. The Beyond ROI survey identified $6 million in new and won business that Philips generated from their new power messaging. Click the download button to see highlights of the Philips report and to learn more about the Beyond ROI measurement discipline.